Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of Gen Ed. We're super excited to be able to have this opportunity. And today we just wanted to talk a little bit about finding what you love, what you're interested in. The kind of one of the express purposes of this podcast is to help students explore a lot of different fields and find what's best for them. And so we wanted this first episode to kind of outline the way you go about finding what you love. Alana, do you want to get us going?
Yeah, so I'm Alana, and so this is gonna kind of lead us into whether you love history or you love neuroscience or you're into computers or you're into art. We're just wanting to give you topics and provide you with some guests later on in future episodes to potentially find what you want to major in or what you want to do after school. So, Dan, since you're in college, could you tell me a little bit about what you are interested in?
Yeah, I'm currently at Brigham Young University in my freshman year. I'm declared as a physics major, but that might as well say undeclared because I have no clue what I'm going to do. And but I have a set of kind of fields that I'm interested in, right? I really enjoy history. I really enjoy business and law, and have some interest in a few STEM fields. So I kind of have that list. And now what I'm focusing on is just process of elimination, just trying stuff out and seeing if it fits. And if it doesn't, I can just cross that off the list and keep going.
Yeah, so physics, I'm very anti-physics. I never enjoyed it. But so why did you choose physics as at first and now you're undeclared? Like what changed?
That's a great question. I did a little bit more research into kind of the career path of a physicist and the school and education path of a physicist. And I realized that though it was something that I really enjoyed, that career path and that educational path just didn't line up with kind of my ambitions, what I wanted to do, what my goals were. And I think that's something that's really important in this process is looking forward, looking at where this field or this interest is going to land you in 5 to 10 years. Alana, as someone coming out of high school and about to go into college, tell me a little bit about what you're thinking of doing, how you got into that position, and maybe how you think your plans might change a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So, right now I'm a senior um, in San Antonio, Texas. So, not originally from here, but moved, got here, ended up falling in love with San Antonio. So, I had no clue what I wanted to do. The high school I went to was more health related school, so very science heavy. I knew I loved biology. There's a very science. My family is a very sciencey family, so I went into my freshman year loving biology. We learned about translation, like how proteins are made, and that just fascinated me. And then sophomore year, we had to take chemistry, and the thought of chemistry, I hated it. I did not want to go to the class. I thought it was going to be the worst class ever. And that turned out to be not true. I ended up loving chemistry and I grew that. I took some more APs with chemistry and now I'm planning and actually majoring in biochemistry when I'm going off to college. So I would recommend like trying new things and doing stuff that you are interested in. I guess on a side note, uh, dress shopping for girls is one of the hardest things to do. And let me explain a little bit more. So, whenever I would go dress shopping, I would choose a ton of dresses, didn't know anything I liked. And my grandmother, she would choose the ugliest dresses on the racks. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna hate it. And she's like, just trust me, try it on. And when I tried it on, like I ended up falling in love with this ugly dress I saw on the rack. So I guess the same thing can be applied to like school and what you're interested in. Like, do things you absolutely hate and try 'em and just see what happens because you actually might like fall in love with something. So Dan, like guys clothing are easy to find, but on the side note, like have you had any trouble like finding what you're interested in or making like that decision to go forward with what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think on a quick side note, me and Alana have talked about this before, but biology is one of the things that I know I'm not going into. It's one of the few sciences that I'm just not behind. but um but yeah, I think coming out of high school, I had this mindset of I'm committing to a university, and once I get there, I need to commit to a degree, and then I need to pursue that degree all the way to completion, and then go from there. Um, and and that really gave me some issues once my plans started to fall apart. Right, where when I ended up at a different university than I thought I was going to be at, when I ended up not majoring in what I had declared to be. And it was kind of at that point that I realized that the college process and the education process, particularly early on, is a lot more flexible than I thought it was. Um, and I think that flexibility is really important because it allows us to do some of that exploration that you were just talking about, Alana, where you can go out and take classes, or you can go get an internship, or you can just go get a part-time job, and you can start to look into all of those things that you might be interested in, and even those things that you're not very interested in, and so that you can kind of push off that process of commitment a little bit, and be able to look at all your options. And that kind of getting experience in a lot of different fields is something I think is really important coming out of high school. I think a lot of kids, myself included, come out of high school and plan on majoring in something that they think they really like, but they just don't really have the necessary experience to really say, I wanted to be a physicist, but I had only taken a couple physics classes, and it turns out that I didn't quite know enough about that field to really make that decision. And so for me, what's been integral is just picking interesting classes to take, picking an interesting job to take, finding opportunities to serve in my community in different capacities, and just really build up my experience in a lot of different places.
Yeah, definitely getting out there and experiencing it. You can always, I think, one of the things I worried about while in high school was regretting the chances I didn't take. So, funny story, another sidetrack, but I promise it leads somewhere. Um, I tried out for a basketball team, and I don't have the best hand-eye coordination, and I did not make the team. I ended up spraining my ankle. But let me tell you, that trying out for the basketball team was some of the most fun I've had in a while. And you gain that experience. You gain valuable skills from everything you try, even if you decide later on you don't want to do it. So at the tryouts, I missed every basket, but I was there cheering everyone on while they succeeded and eventually made the team. So, you know what? I found out that I was great at motivating people and not so much at basketball, but there are other people who are great at basketball. And so I would suggest try anything. Go out to that club, go out to your park, talk to new people. Because if you do something and you decide you don't like it, hey, you don't ever have to do it again. Dan, have you had like an experience where you tried something and you're like, no, this isn't right for me, or you ended up falling in love with something that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I mean, that was really all of high school for me. Um, Kind of like you, I tried out a bunch of different sports and ended up staying away from them. I tried all these things that in terms of sports specifically, I tried all these things that I thought I was really going to enjoy. I tried out rugby for a couple years. That wasn't for me. I tried out track and cross country because my older siblings had run track. That also wasn't for me. And then, well, I wasn't really looking for a sport to get into. Some friends invited me to go rock climbing with them, and I went and I was terrible. I was just absolutely awful. My strength levels were very low, but I loved it. I was addicted um, to climbing up a wall, and and from then on, I just I loved to rock climb. I got a membership at my local gym. I became a member of my school's rock climbing club. I believe it ended up in one of my college essays. Like it became something that was, like a pretty major hobby and a pretty major kind of personality point, and it was just completely unexpected. And I wanted to talk about actually real quick something that you brought up, Alana, where you're talking about your basketball story, where you said at the end there that you you discovered that you weren't great at basketball, but that you were really good at motivating people, and I think that that's a really important kind of way to look at things, where you look at all of these different skills and fields that you've been involved in, and you look at what made you successful or what made you not successful, and you compile all those attributes to kind of learn more about yourself and what you're good at. It's kind of like, for anyone who's seen Parks and Rec, when Andy's trying to help April find out what to do, he lists all the things that she likes to do, and then finds what components are common among them. And when you're a high school or beginning college student and you're looking out at a field of possibilities, it can feel really overwhelming to have all of these choices. And so I think doing a process like what you did, Alana, at that basketball tryout, or like what Andy and April did, and just start finding components of things that you're good at or that you want to work on, and how those things interact with different professions and fields. Alana, as you're about to go into college, what's something that you're either looking forward to or maybe not looking forward to, in terms of kind of your path, your journey to finding out what you want to do?
Yeah, so as I was explaining before, I'm very much into biochemistry, so lots of science. So I'm kind of nerding out about analytical chemistry and being in the lab. So I'm excited about that. I think I am nervous, but as you were explaining before, it's all about being adaptable and being flexible. I think, especially in high school, like all your life, um, you don't have that independence as you will in college. So, Dan, I'm going to have you explain a little bit more about independence and finding a little bit more about yourself after college or after high school, I mean. So, um, going forward, I'm definitely interested in volunteering. I'm very much so into mental health and being an advocate for that. I love being outdoors. So looking into that, I might take a film course. You never know. I don't know. I have a grudge against computer science. I couldn't tell you why. Me and computers do not get along. So you never know. I might face that um, fear right up front and just take a computer science class. Who knows? Or maybe it'll just come down to too many people are scheduled, so I get the last choice of a class. So definitely about being a little bit flexible. So, Dan, could you tell me a little bit more about like independence after high school, like that transition?
Yeah. And again, another little tangent. One of the few STEM fields that I was looking into was computer science. So really, me and Alana have completely alternate tastes when it comes to STEM. But yeah, I mean, you get to college and suddenly you have full control over the classes you take, um, your entire personal life, your diet. You have full control over everything, which is both a blessing and a curse, um, because it gives you that flexibility to explore. You do have general credits that you need to fulfill to graduate, but for the most part, they're pretty limited. And so my first semester, I hardly took any general credits, and I was just exploring stuff. I took a computer science course to explore that. I took a history course to explore that field as well. And so that independence is really great when it comes to course requirements. Even if there's a course that requires a prerequisite course, you can often just email the professor and they'll let you in anyways, even if you don't have the prereq. So you really do have a lot of control over how you're looking into stuff. But on the flip side, you also have full control on not doing anything. Um, you can go to college and you can elect to take some classes and kind of dink around in them and not really explore anything. You can spend all of your free time outside of school, again, just kind of dinking around, staying up until like 5 a.m, partying. And while that's really fun to do, and I think definitely has its merits to do for a little while, get the college experience, I've found that in kind of the hours I'm spending outside of school are just as important as the ones I'm spending in school in terms of figuring out what I want and what I want to do. Just a quick tangent. I have a friend who enrolled in classes at a different university, didn't leave his apartment for like 4 weeks, just was playing video games the whole time. I saw him a month before finals, and he said that he had not done a single thing in 4 of his 5 courses. So that's an extreme example.
I have a question.
Yes?
What game made him sit at a computer for 4 weeks and didn't do anything?
I think he was playing Call of Duty, but I can't confirm or deny that. So obviously that's a very extreme example. But it's, like you do want to apply yourself, particularly in these first few semesters in college. And as I said before, just start eliminating things. I was able, in these first 2 semesters, I've been able to essentially eliminate like half of the options that I kind of had laid out going into my college career, and while still, taking generals and moving myself towards graduation. So it's that independence is really important, but you really got to wield it right, for it to be, a help to you. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, with that independence, you need some self discipline and responsibility, accountability for yourself. I think that is like a habit. I think, especially with being for distance learning, being online for school, I think we can all relate to procrastination and dreading a computer because we're so attached to it during these days. But that's where you want to put in the effort for yourself and to take ownership and for your learning. And I think that's something we have to learn when we're transitioning to higher learning.
yeah.
Um,
If I could go off that for just a second,
mhm,
while it is important, in my opinion, to get yourself out there and such, you also don't want to burn yourself out. Obviously, we're not. No one is a superhero. Nobody can do all of the hardest classes and do all the extracurricular stuff and have an interesting internship and all these things. You don't need to do all that to define what you want to do. Obviously, um, most people can figure out what they want to do without going completely crazy and sleeping like 3 hours a night because they're just doing so much. Um, and kind of, kind of going off that idea, um, of not burning yourself out, like in high school, kind of contrary to that a little bit. In high school, I kind of had this mindset of, I'm just 16, I'm just 17, I'm just a high schooler. Um, there are all these things that I want to try, but I'm too young to try them. Like I'm too young to look into this field, or I'm too young to get this internship, or I'm too young to dabble with this, and I'm not talking about drugs and alcohol. um, but and and I just kind of figured like, oh, I'll do that stuff later. I'll do that stuff when I'm older. And then I kind of realized when I was going through the college application process and seeing what other kids had accomplished, in high school, that there are a lot of things that I kind of held in my mind as being like too difficult or too out of reach for a high schooler or for even an early college student that other people were doing, and they weren't doing them, as I said, like sacrificing their whole life, um, never sleeping, always working, 24/7 hustle and grind. They were just like they just committed to something and they did it. And because they did that thing, they stood out to colleges and they had this amazing life experience when they were just in high school. And and so I think that's a really interesting mindset to have when you're in high school or when you're early in college, that things might not be as difficult or as extraordinary as you think they are. And so that's one reason why I just really encourage just going out and trying stuff, just diving headfirst into something, and it might surprise you at how you don't need to give up your whole life to pursue something, meaningful in your spare time.
yeah, definitely. Find something that you feel motivated in, that you're passionate about, something, this is my word of advice, something that you could talk about to someone for 30 plus minutes and just go off on a tangent like Dan and I are doing. So find something like that and stick to it. Go out, join different clubs, and you don't have to stay in all of them. Just choose the ones that you're really into, this can help with applying to college later on. They're not looking for perfection, they're looking for a balanced student. And no one is a superhero, we're all human. And um, don't burn yourself out. I think it's helpful to have a support system where you can rely on friends, family, teachers, mentors. Um, Dan, could you maybe talk about how you balance school and finding like your support system
Yeah, I
to not
mean,
like burn out yourself, but to not burn yourself out?
yeah, for sure. I mean, in high school, I really relied on the friends I saw every day, and I have a pretty large family, and we all get along really well, and so that's a really strong support structure for me as well. Um, but in the era of the COVID-19 pandemic, for anyone who may be listening, like 3 years from now, that's still going on. It both high school students and college students have been really affected, where at high school you may not be seeing your friends every day now, because you can't go to class. Or in college, I've had, despite living only about 30 minutes away from my family, I haven't been able to see them as much because I'm just a kind of dangerous transmitter. I've been down at college. And so you, particularly in this time, I think some of those traditional support structures for me have kind of dissipated a little bit. Um, but for me, that's just meant taking a little bit more effort to reach out to those people. Instead of just naturally seeing my friends, I give them a call. Or also just finding some stress release valves, that you can do by yourself. I enjoy exercising and working out. That's a good way to blow off some steam and to just kind of forget about school for a minute. Um, or just like sitting down and like watching YouTube for like 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes more in my case. Um, like a great way to just kind of turn your brain off a little bit and just recoup, just kind of prepare yourself again. And I think that it's really important to give yourself those moments of not doing anything, those moments of procrastination, those moments of just kind of sitting around, because otherwise, you end up burning out, like we talked about earlier. Um, Alana, I don't know what your high school setup is right now. How's that been? Um,
Oh, yeah. So my school's pretty small. We have about like 1,000 students, so very small. But so most of us has been online. I think it's challenging connecting with others. It's definitely hard to reach out because we're obsessed with our screens, as I said before. What I find helpful is reaching out to friends. I know sometimes I text my friends in my Zoom classes, even if it's bad and teachers know, but at least like you're reaching out and talking to people. The freshman class, I give like kudos to them because they've made so many friends and I am so impressed with them online. Um, I'm also uh, I also go to therapy, and there's a definitely a stigma behind mental health. Uh, but even if we're online or in quarantine, there's ways to go and reach out. Um, I know with insurance, even with college, um, therapy appointments can be free. Talking to your counselor can be free. My therapy appointments cost $15. Like that is covered by insurance. And reach out, even if it's to a friend, a teacher, a mentor. There are more people than you think who care about and love you. And so instead of getting a little bit sappy, Wave is here for you. We're here with you every step of the way, whether that's being finding out something you hate, finding out something you love. We're here for you, and we're gonna be here the rest of the way with this whole education process. So, Dan, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I I was just gonna say that that's the point of this podcast series. We are here to support you guys and help you guys find out what what it is you guys love and what you want to do. Um, and so in the coming weeks, we're going to be having on guests. We're going to be addressing a lot of different interesting topics and fields of study in kind of a quick overview type format so that you guys can kind of hit the ground running, maybe see some things you hadn't previously considered, and start kind of getting that experience we talked about during this podcast, and just seeing what's out there, seeing what you can do, and what interests you.
Thanks for listening. Check out wavelf.org, Wave Learning Festival. We'll see you next week.